This episode of Chains is sponsored exclusively by Charlie Foxtrot Brewing. Ask about beers from this veteran-owned brewery in tap rooms across Southwest Florida and Western North Carolina. Thank you for supporting our veterans.
Chains, Episode 28. Written and voiced by Nicole and Dustin Dhonash.
Okay, we're recording. Go ahead and start by stating your name.
Sara Martin.
And do I have permission to record our conversation?
Yes.
Good. Oh, and don't worry too much about it. This is just so that we have a record of what you found, so we can reference it. It might also help to think of it as a dress rehearsal for court. I'll end up editing it for the lawyer, so no real pressure here.
Oh, okay, that's good. I haven't been in court in a while. Research pays a little better than being a professional witness recently, especially out here.
Yeah, I know the feeling for sure. All right, go ahead and read the witness statement at the top of the page aloud.
This statement is true to the best of my knowledge and belief, and I make it knowing that, if it is tendered in evidence, I shall be liable to prosecution if I have willfully stated anything to be false or do not believe to be true.
Hey, one take. Nice job. Next is qualifications. Go ahead.
I am a Bachelor of Science, Master of Public Health, Certified Industrial Hygienist, and Certified Safety Professional. I am employed at the Science Support Branch of the Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry.
Nice. Too bad they didn't have you, on the scene at any point near Henry Ralston. It sat there and festered for 30 years. I'd imagine one glance from you would have prevented all 3 deaths. Health problems notwithstanding.
Yeah, leaving any of that stuff just sitting there was eventually going to kill someone. The negligence here is impressive.
That's definitely one way to put it. Speaking of impressive, the next section is circumstances. Whenever you're ready.
I understand that the bodies of Hercules William Ramsey and Corinth Penelope were found on the Penelope Farm, which is located adjacent to the former site of Henry Ralston Amalgams, henceforth known as HRA. Several toxic substances were found in various locations on the scene, including mercury and other metals. There were several gallons of pilfered trichloroethylene, or TCE, also assumed to be left by HRA, which both appeared to be used with a CPAP machine.
That seems incredible to me.
Yeah, that's another way to put it. People haven't used TCE for decades. It was primarily an industrial solvent and, weirdly, also an anesthetic.
Those things don't even seem remotely connected.
Well, I don't quite have time to teach you organic chemistry.
Nor would any of that stick.
It was also an industrial degreaser and used a bit in rocket ignition.
Wow.
The mercury fillings are generally safe for use, but a company that specializes in their disposal, just leaving them in a bunker? Argolia's blood work was also impressive. She must have been incoherent, if not bonkers.
Yes, bonkers. I have a psych witness coming in later today, so I'll be able to confirm the levels of bonkers. Alright, a bit more work to do. The purpose section is next. Go ahead.
I have been asked on behalf of the Sheriff's Department to analyze the data found from material samples and from autopsy findings of the deceased in order to determine if any of the volatile substances were involved in the deaths occurring at Penelope Farm. Do you know how the other cop was involved here? I kept seeing things in the report about Aeolus Ramsey.
Yeah, the nephew. Went rogue, kind of a wild card in the whole HRA thing. Somehow found that the uncle was there, rallied a neighbor, stormed the place, and shot his uncle by mistake.
Yeah, I saw pictures of the uncle before the burns. There's no way I'd recognize him. I know it's beyond the scope of my report, but the whole shotgun wound to the chest and second-degree burns across the entire body thing felt odd to leave out of the report.
Yeah, this part is just the toxicity report. I actually have a witness statement scheduled for the first officer on the scene tomorrow. He didn't know it was his uncle, the poor guy. And then there was the whole cult thing.
The psych guy must have his work cut out for him.
Actually, your testimony makes it a lot easier. From what I understand, mercury poisoning is behind most of the unusual behavior. Anyway, next section is labeled Nature of Exam. Go ahead.
Samples obtained were analyzed for the presence of alcohol, a wide range of drugs, and common over-the-counter medications. The blood, other liquids found at the crime scene, and the CPAP machine were analyzed for hard metals and volatile substances. The fact that they were using the CPAP to basically huff the TCE is crazy. That could go really wrong really fast.
Oh, so here's the thing about that. The Penelopes were self-sufficient, basically survivalists. Argolia outlined the method she used to find the right dosing. It's straight out of the handbook for testing edibles found in the wild. An increased dosage, each use, starting with the smallest amount, and then work up from there with rests in between.
And a permanently numb face.
That was part of the cult thing. How did you know about that?
Cranial nerve dysfunction can make your face numb. It's a possible symptom of TCE exposure.
But that doesn't happen to everyone, right? That's one of the factors that Argolia used to determine if someone was the chosen.
There are a lot of variables, but it's unlikely to happen across the board.
You know, the more I learn about this whole situation, the more I see how any small thing could have gone differently and prevented the whole situation.
Yeah, it's an outlier, that's for sure.
Second paragraph, and go.
I reviewed the multiple autopsy reports done at the Regional Medical Examiner's Office, in addition to the medical evaluation performed on Argolia Penelope at the local medical center. The following substances were found in the blood of those in question at Penelope Farm. Corinth Penelope, mercury, TCE, alcohol. Hercules William Ramsey, TCE. Argolia Penelope, mercury, and TCE. What was Ramsey's actual role in all of this?
Well, the current theory is that they dosed the sheriff and tried to make him part of their cult. It gets confusing from there. We have a young woman, Hannah Thompson, that said she saw the sheriff going along with some kind of ritual combat. Multiple cultists said that they participated in imprisoning him. Argolia, of course, says that he died as his chosen, part of her grand Mercury-laden theory.
Oh, I heard about that. The metal god that made her do all these things. You know, she's kind of right about that part.
What? And here I was thinking you were a woman of science.
I am. Vaporized mercury, which they were accidentally making, is probably the most dangerous form. When you inhale it, it travels quickly from your lungs to your bloodstream and will likely collect in the kidneys or brain, like small toxic chain links held by an angry metal god.
That's, wow.
And who's gonna end up responsible for her?
We don't know yet. Part of this suit will determine who pays out.
Pays out for what?
Well, bills, end-of-life care, damages if someone's found negligent.
Like who?
We don't know that either.
Right. Most of the people associated with HRA died of cancer.
Well, there are options. Should we press on with the report?
Probably best if we did.
All right. Commentary next, please, and go.
Symptoms of chronic and acute exposure to mercury include, but are not limited to, tremors, deafness, muscle incoordination, and difficulties with memory. Something unique to mercury poisoning is erythism mercurialis, features of which include personality changes, anxiety, irritability, excitability, fearfulness, extreme shyness, and depression.
Hold on, I have to make some notes for the psych witness tomorrow. That sounds a lot like what we're dealing with Argolia, and I want to make sure that they're aware. Okay, on to the TCE stuff next. Go ahead.
The values of TCE found in the various bodies were all well above the permissible exposure limit set by OSHA, which is 100 parts per million. In some cases, it was found to be above the IDLH, immediately dangerous to life or health limit, which is 1,000 parts per million. Acute and chronic exposure can cause symptoms including, but not limited to, nausea, incoordination, dizziness, impaired gait, cranial nerve damage, arrhythmia, hypotension, liver toxicity, and kidney disease.
Some of the cultists shared that towards the end of the use period, Corinth literally couldn't tell them apart. Is there anything that you can think of that might be causing that?
Well, with the various toxins combined and with his advanced age, it's not out of the question. There's nothing I directly associate with that, though, although I'm not an eye doctor.
Noted. Okay, conclusions. You can start now.
I would like to note finally that during my research, I learned that the founders and some former employees of HRA died from various cancers and that the property was hidden from financial and legal records. These are not my area of expertise, but they warrant additional investigation. You know, there are quite a few places with TCE toxicity like this that are in the same situation. Lejeune, Wake Forest, Asheville, and that's just in this state.
Yeah. I don't think the Industrial Revolution was very firmly rooted in humanitarian movements. We'll probably be settling the effects of that for another couple centuries.
Well, we won't, but someone will.
That's true. Okay, just the conclusion and we're done.
While these symptoms were made exponentially worse by melting the amalgams and huffing the TCE, the mercury and TCE left by the HRA company would have eventually caused these symptoms on their own. It is possible, given the above symptoms of mercury poisoning, that the people of Penelope Farm were using the TCE to help alleviate the pain and gradually worsening neurologic effects that they were experiencing. The events at Penelope Farm may not have occurred if it were not due to the negligence of HRA, lack of properly disposing of the chemicals, equipment, and components of their property. In addition, it's in the best interest of the local and state government to follow up and enforce the safe removal of these chemicals for the welfare of this community.
Nice. I think we're done. Out of curiosity, given the volume of toxic substances stored on site, do you think this eventually would have become a regional problem?
No. Even with proper disposal at this point, it's not just a regional problem. It's a world problem.